Welcome, everybody. Those of you who don't know Ellen and myself, we are the founders of the Conscious World Club, an idea that came to us through a download. And the download was, you're going to create a game. I had no clue what kind of game it was, but I started following my intuition. And then it said, you need to work with Ellen. I hardly knew Ellen, but I don't know, I was in a really weird period in my life where I just trusted that I surrendered my life and I would be guided. Started working with Ellen. We had no clue what we're going to do. We just started with fun dinners in Amsterdam. Our first dinner was in the Vortex dinner after an Abraham Hicks event. We attracted the most amazing manifestors and allowers into our lives, and we just started trusting our downloads. And then before we knew it, we suddenly had this download for the appreciation game. And then we also had to download, we need to create a community and just give the community value. And especially during this lockdown, we started feeling that we had to contribute something. We had to do something that would bring people together, that would help people feel stronger and feel more capable and not so lost in what I would say is the mass hypnosis and the fear. But not just the fear, but also the people that are just thinking the worst case scenario. So Ellen and I started downloading this game called the Appreciation Game, creating from the best case scenario. And while I was teaching the best case scenario, I was, of course, just like everybody, I was pulled into what we call the mass consciousness of worst case scenario. And one of the areas where I was really struggling was my relationship. And so my testimony is now for Hogarth, who is our guest. So I was having a lot of issues with my partner because he was actually working in the health industry. He was overlooking an area of 1.5 million patients and so many hospitals and doctors. And of course, I couldn't see that. I was like in my victim. I was in my abandonment stuff. And I was watching Western astrology and it was like so horrible. Everything that was what my transits were showing me what was going on in my relationship. And it was so accurate that I got really scared. And I thought, oh my God, like how will I ever get out of this transits, like with all these things impacting me? And then one of my mastermind friends, Daniel Brown, who's a very dear friend of Hogarth, he actually said, you know what, you should have a constellation with Hogarth, because Hogarth helped me a lot with my chart. And actually, if you understand your chart, your Vedic chart, you'll be able to navigate all the stuff that's going on in the planets. And then Daniel said the magic words. He said Hogarth even predicted this whole crisis in 2019. And I was like, oh my God, I need to speak to Hogarth. Because my partner is the most amazing man. You know, if we would record the fights that I have with him, it would be like shameful for me, because I go into these almost scorpion-like type of attacks. And I didn't know I was Scorpio. I thought I was Aquarian with non-zero water planets. According to Vedic astrology, I am Scorpio, I am Cancer. And it's like, what? That would explain my craziness when I'm like a Scorpio in love. I'm that passionate. I am that like, so basically when I had the session with Hogarth, I didn't know what to expect. But my testimonial is he didn't know, he hadn't seen me in a year. Last time he saw me, I was super single. He doesn't know anything about my partner. He actually doesn't know much about me in my love life because he's only seen me when I was single. And he just did this chart for me, this reading about me and my partner, and it was scarily accurate. Like he was even demonstrating, like I have a recording where he was saying that I was like, I was trying to extract the passion from my partner, who's like a CFO. He's super rational, always working, logic, very calm, like always like responding to me in a mature way. And Hogarth literally said, give me some passion. And that was me. Like, that's how my partner sees me. So can you imagine my partner that withdraws, like, whoa, what's this? And he's like the opposite. He's like, I think Aquarian moon. And I have like, I don't know, some kind of water moon, I think Scorpio or something. So it was so accurate. And he was actually always also giving me amazing tips of how I should temper my temperament, because I'm so attracted to a guy who's my complete polar opposites. But he also said that he and I were like so bound to each other that at the time that we met, we had like a soulmate constellation, both of us going on. So that is what keeps me together with my man. It's like, my God, I waited so long to meet this soulmate. I better not fuck it up, right? But actually, you know, basically Hogarth gave me such an amazing reading about my shortcomings in Vedic astrology. But then he also told me about a lot of what was going on in my career. And it was actually what I've been creating with Ellen right now and what I'm now creating. And it's really what I'm living now is so much the karmic blessing of all my lives. And I got so much confirmation about my shortcomings in my love life, my blessings in my work life, and also a lot of his very positive tips of how I need to work with this amazing man that I have, and also with all these amazing planets. So my thing was, Ellen had a birthday, and I just thought, oh my God, I need to give her a birthday reading from Hogarth. And I didn't know what to expect. But Ellen, maybe you can share with us you can unmute yourself. Oh, sorry. Okay, let me do that first. Yes. Ellen, maybe you give your testimonial about your amazing reading.
Yeah, so it was interesting because I got the amazing gift from Angelique, and first of all, I was already blown away by Hogarth and his beautiful charts. So they're so artsy, it's like artwork, and I was like in love already. Yeah, I just added a sort of personal touch to it, but I also loved hearing that what I'm doing with Angelique now is also my karmic or my dharma, my path. So, and how similar we are. And
yes.
I thought I was like, really? Because also on the one hand, we are very similar, but on the other hand, we're also not similar. So we're also very complementary. So I really loved that. And yeah, what I also loved was that my daughter is like my karmic person we were meant to meet. And I've been contemplating this recently. And I think I knew that from the moment I found out I was pregnant. I knew she and I had to be together. So yeah, it was just amazing. I loved it. And the hearing that I have an abundant life is always
and you know, I didn't know that about Ellen, but Ellen and I have been setting huge, humongous goals, and all our passwords have big numbers in them. And then and I said, Ellen, we better prepare our subconscious mind for like floodgates of abundance. But definitely, we're going to create floodgates of abundance for our clients of the appreciation game or of any game they're going to play with us. And right now we're expanding into the Spanish market, the German market, the Portuguese market, the French market, you know, maybe the Russian market, Chinese market. And we're just like, but you know what? And still we are like, my God, where are we going with this world? And that's why I just thought we need to, Hogarth has to tell us what's going on. And so, but the first thing is, Hogarth, you are not an astrologer, actually. Astrology is almost like an out-of-hand hobby, right? Because you actually work in the events industry. Can you tell us a bit about how did this happen?
Well, firstly, thank you for the introductions, and I'm so glad that you've enjoyed the consultations. And yeah, it's really interesting because essentially I originally went to art school, so I have an arts background. I've done you know, exhibitions, lots of stuff in London. I've actually been on TV to do with things to do with arts, Sky Arts Portrait Artist of the Year Award, and I'm still involved in film to a lesser extent as a hobby and all that stuff, all before lockdown. But I do have a background in events. One of my main things that I would be doing if I wasn't doing astrology, I manage conferences for big corporate clients at a place called King's Place. So of course everything is in lockdown, but I would have clients like Google, we have clients at Disney, all the big pharmaceutical companies, just big business, hedge funds, all the way down to Apple as well, but all the way down to kind of smaller things that are more kind of like local or community based. So we're a very diverse venue, and we're also an arts venue. So that job kept me very busy, kept me using all of my various different skills, of course, meeting lots of people. But what would always happen is, without doubt, what would happen when I would brief my front of house staff to tell them about the client, what's happening in the day, inevitably, we would always end up talking about astrology. So yeah, so my colleagues were always asking me about their life, their charts, etc.
For free, for free.
Well,
Stop it. I'm gonna, Hogarth, can I just ask one question?
yes, of course.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just acting
Oh,
like
right,
colleagues.
No, yeah. And this is what would happen. So people would, because a lot of people in the events industry, as you can imagine, particularly people that work front of house or people that are checking the tickets, a lot of them are actors or performers, or they're involved in the arts. So they always have this other kind of career thing kind of going on. So of course people would be asking about their careers, and I'll just be looking at different things and I'll be getting them. It was just crazy. Anyway, this has gone on for years. But of course it's fantastic. It's brilliant training because you just see that it works. Yeah, astrology, Vedic astrology is very powerful.
Awesome.
So yeah, Ellen, you
can I ask the
next
first question? Yeah. So how did you become a Vedic astrologer, and why Vedic over Western astrology? You just said it's very powerful, so I would love to hear about that.
Okay, so how did it happen? So I've been interested in astrology since I was a kid, literally since I was a kid. And where it started was, for me, was well, actually, you know, let me just share. I'll share some personal stuff. But like, say, like my mother, when I was growing up, she had some mental health issues. So there was always, you know, her mind wasn't sound, shall we say. However, I didn't have much TV growing up, but I always had books and art books, because I'm named after William Hogarth. I remember seeing this pregnancy picture, and my mother had already written my name on there, and she said my son will be an artist and all that stuff. So she was right, you know. Mums are very psychic. But anyway, but because her mental state would fluctuate, one of the books that she gave me was about Greek and Roman astrology. Oh, no, not Greek and Roman astrology, the myths. So, you know, like the stories of Aphrodite with Mars and blah, blah, you know, all of this stuff. And, you know, the Greek and Roman legends. And I found it fascinating because not only are the planets not only are the stories, they're very psychological. And a lot of, in terms of professional psychology, they reference a lot of these Greek and Roman myths. So we may have heard of like the Electra complex, for example.
Yes.
Have you heard of that before?
Yes,
And it's when a woman, it's when a woman has a kind
father
of
issues.
Compulsive adoration of the father. And then, of course, you have the Oedipus complex, etc., and it goes on and on. And we all know about, of course, Helen of Troy and the famous war that caused the Trojan War. So when I looked at all of this, I was fascinated by these stories. But as I read the stories, they began to give me insights, psychological insight into what was going on with my mother's condition. So when I learned about the Furies, which is like this concept of these raging sort of, they're kind of like night terrors, ghosts that chase after people. I was like, oh wow, okay, maybe this is helping me understand my mother's psychology, you know, the up and down nature. And then when I realized that the gods that they were talking about were also like the planets, so of course we use the Roman names, so Venus, Aphrodite has become Venus, etc., you know, Mars, you know, Pluto. And then I realized, I'm like, wow, these planets are gods, and this is why they called them the gods. So then I started getting into the astrology, started to understand the meanings, and that was from the Western perspective. And in the West, we focus on the sun sign, the placement of the sun. And you can see almost in the West, we're quite heliocentric in the sense of the sun represents the individual kingdom, where we're supposed to shine, where we're supposed to make our place on earth. And you can see how that's very appealing. to the Western mindset. But in Vedic astrology, it's different. It's all based on the moon. I'll let you talk for a bit. Let me just drink this little bit. Here, all right, I'll continue. So the moon is a very different energy to the sun, as you can imagine, but the archetypes are still true. So the sun is always masculine. It represents the divine masculine. And the moon represents the divine feminine. But in Indian, so like in Western astrology, we would look at that and we'd be like, oh yes, the sun is the masculine energy, the moon is the feminine energy. It talks about the emotions and stuff like that. But it tends to stop there a bit. In Indian astrology, the actual planets represent embodied people in your life. So you not only see the energy of a person's chart, but you can see the energy of a person's potential partner. You can also see the energy of a person's mother, father, siblings, etc. So I think that was one of the things, wasn't it, Angelique, that really surprised you, wasn't it, when I was discussing your partner? Then we were even talking a little bit, maybe a bit about his family without revealing too much, because of course that was a private session. But those are one of the things, I think that was something that really surprised you, wasn't it, that I could actually be able to infer that and actually get that knowledge from the chart. So
and you were very accurate about him as well, like, because he is super successful and it was in his chart. And I was super successful in transformation, and that was in my chart. And then, you know, and actually he and I had a lot of conflicts about me talking too much about spirituality. And I keep saying, why are you not with a spiritual man? I said, because I don't fall in love with spiritual men. I just love businessmen. But then you shouldn't, like, and just seeing his chart, I could see, like, no, don't talk about spirituality, talk about business, because that's also who you are, Angelique. And so there's so many, the chart gave me so much insight as to, don't try and change this man. He's just who he is. He's amazing as he is. And that's why I really wanted Ellen to do the chart, because she's almost like, I talk probably more to her than to my partner, right? So I better understand this woman. So
but it's incredible, isn't it? Because so when I what happens is the main difference between the Western and the Indian. So I don't want to be too technical, but basically the Indian astrology is moved backwards by a sign by almost 24 degrees. And this is to do with something called the precession of the equinoxes, which is an astronomical fact. You can actually check it on NASA. So basically, Indian astrology follows the star portions, which are called nakshatras, or lunar mansions is the easier way to remember them. So when we talk about our star signs, that's what actually gives the star signs their flavor. It's the rays of the stars coming down, and certain stars, and there is such a thing of being born under a lucky star. This is absolutely true. You can be born under a lucky star, and unlucky ones as well. But the whole point is it's the stars that give the flavor. So in Indian astrology, you're looking based on where the moon was when you were born. That will actually dictate which portion of the sky that you're in, which star constellation you were born into. And then that sets a planetary sequence for the rest of your life. And that's why one is able to predict certain things. So like, for example, with Ellen, and when we were talking about Ellen's daughter, and I was saying, I could see in her chart that her daughter would be 4 years old. But when Ellen confirmed that she was 4, I was like, there you go. And why was I able to do that? The reason why is, I'll just give you a little overview of what the planets mean in Vedic astrology, and which is what makes it different. So the sun represents you, your kingdom, and your life force and your energy, but it also represents your father. The moon represents your mind, your emotions, how you actually perceive the moon. The moon actually gives us the power of perception, because the moon reflects. So depending on the condition of the moon will tell you how a person emotionally responds to life and how their mind is. But the moon also represents the mother. So when you look at the position, the moon position in the chart, it also tells you about the mother as well. Then if we go to planet Mars, Mars represents our ability to express energy, how we use our energy. We need Mars to defend ourselves. So if the Mars is a bit weak, we find it hard to defend ourselves in our arguments. But if the Mars is aggravated, then we can be almost too angry. Yeah, it's all about a balance. But Mars also represents siblings as well. It represents your siblings, and it also represents real estate. So sometimes when Mars moves into a certain position in a person's chart, they end up moving home. So that's a very interesting one. Then you have Mercury, planet Mercury. Planet Mercury is the planet of communication. It's actually allied to the throat chakra. All the planets are allied to a throat chakra, so I mean to a chakra, so I'll add that on the end. But that's our communication, that's our business, the mechanism of our mind. How quickly can we think? Our ability to think logically, yeah, and sequentially. Planet of business as well. So having a strong Mercury really helps you with business. And then Venus, who everyone loves, the planet of relationships, yeah? But it's the planet of relationships. It's also where we seek happiness, where we try and find comfort and luxuries. Venus is scent, beauty, good food, good wine, restaurants, going on boats, on cruises, all those good things in life are Venus. And female energy, archetypally, is a combination of moon and Venus. This is why women love to change, transform like the moon, because the moon always changes and transforms. And part of why women love beauty and beautiful fabrics and things that smell nice and look nice. Venus is also fashion as well. I know that's, not every woman is into fashion, but archetypally so, you see? And then we can talk about Jupiter. This is very important because Jupiter in a woman's chart represents the husband, the spouse, yeah? And so that, and Jupiter also represents children as well, or any idea that we birth. So if we have a book idea, if we have some kind of creative, business as well, and the houses also represent different things. So Jupiter represents Jiva, creativity, the life force, and is very expansive, but he can expand things for good or bad. And then we have Saturn, which is the one that everyone is scared of because Saturn is the planet of discipline, of karma, of restrictions, but where we have to learn our lessons. But like with Ellen, karma can also be very good because Ellen has karma with her daughter, and that's something she would never regret. So do you see, not all karma is bad.
I had great karma as well. You said I had a lot of blessings. Yes. Yeah. But at the same time, I had a very, I think the scariest planet for your relationship, which is, I will always be a bit like insecure about my ability to be loved, and so I'm always scared of abandonment and betrayal, which is my whole life, and that was also in my chart, and basically, but it also said, if I have self-esteem, I will be unstoppable. So I'm working on that. But then the other scary thing that Hogarth said, which I know is true, is he said, you almost have occult powers, Angelique. You manifest everything, but also the negative, and don't I know it, Yeah. And so it's very insightful to know how powerful we are in the chart, but also definitely for our careers, where should you be? But I think the next question was, because you were telling me about the problems that I was having with my partner, because he's working in the hospital, he's working in the healthcare industry. He's like overworking and I hardly see him, and triggering all my abandonment stuff, right? But then you said, Angelique, there's a transit going on called the Grand Stellium, and everybody's affected by it. And I was like, okay, well, what's the Grand Stellium? And then I told Alan, oh, we need to know about this Grand Stellium, man. There's something going on. And so the next question is, what the hell is going on? I mean, so basically all the people here are here because we're trying to understand, well, like, could we not avoid this? Like, where is it going, and what is the big picture? Because you said you saw this 2 years before. You started blogging, creating videos about something big shifting. You thought it was a computer virus. You knew there was going to be some kind of meltdown, but you didn't know what. So we want to know, how can we prepare ourselves? And you know, where are we going as a collective? And you were always talking about some people wanted to go back to as normal, and that whatever you're seeing, it doesn't seem like it's ever going to be back to normal. So all these people are here because we are on the edge of our seat.
Well, let me tell you, so basically, with all the cray that is going on, when people look inside themselves and they just go, what on earth is going on? Why is this happening? First of all, you are not alone. And we can see the whole world is going through this. And this is because this is a super powerful transit that doesn't happen very often. The one that's kind of nearest in time, comparably, although it was slightly different, was about 700 years ago with the Knights Templar, when they actually began to create the financial monetary system.
Wow.
So there's a big thing on that, but there's all these echoes. I mean, there's even like the one that's actually closest to this was, not to scare everyone, but it was almost basically, it was like with the fall of Rome, in the sense of a whole complete paradigm shift. Now, where we're going to see this emphasis most will actually be in America. And America is the Rome that is sort of being affected right now. And that's partly to do with when that nation was created. It was created on the points of destiny, or in regards to the nodes of the moon, which I'll explain later. But their destiny is for us to bear witness to them, to see how all of these big changes are happening. But it's happening for everyone in every nation on earth. Why? Because we have this thing, what I call the Grand Stellium, which is, it's going to end quite soon. Mars is going to move out the way, but at the moment we have Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars, all in the sign of sidereal Capricorn. Western astrologers will say it's in Aquarius. It's not physically in Aquarius, although we can feel some Aquarian effects. It's in Capricorn. Why is this important? Capricorn is the sign of hierarchy. Capricorn is also the sign of government, business, corporation, structures, yeah? Saturn, planet Saturn, rules over Capricorn and Aquarius. So Saturn is in his own sign. Saturn is also the planet of time, of change. So although Saturn can feel very rigid, the analogy that I used for Angelique, and I'll use it for everyone else today, he's like the orchestra. He's like the conductor of the orchestra. One minute, you know, life is going on, and it's like the Blue Danube, yeah? We're waltzing along, and it's all papa, and then boom, suddenly we're in Shostakovich or something like that, and it's all discordant and it's all changed. And that's because when he steps into his own sign, it's like, I always say, Saturn is like, you know, if you're trying to sell a place and you have to have the surveyor come in, and you know what the surveyor does? They go through, they check everything, don't they? They tap the walls, they check for damp, they check the windows, and this is what Saturn is like. whatever house he comes into, he kind of reconfigures, rejigs, and changes things. And this is happening for everyone across all of planet Earth. And he's also the planet of lockdown, because he's the planet of confinement and restrictions. So he's so powerful, we've got lockdown all over the world.
When did it start? Like, was it accurate? Did it start when it happened in Wuhan, or was it just when it started coming to Europe? I mean, is it that accurate in terms of dates that you can actually trace it back to, my God, that is when Saturn did this, or they were all aligned in that specific constellation? I mean, can we be that? Because I know Vedic astrology is really scared. It was so scary that I never wanted to see a Vedic astrologer ever. And you're the only, yeah, thanks to Daniel, I'm here talking to you. It's just thanks to our friend Daniel. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, some Vedic astrologers can be scary, but it's like with any skill. Sometimes people are just lazy and they just throw stuff out there. But what I can say is, us Vedic astrologers knew that some kind of virus or something like that would be bubbling. And technically it started in September 2019. Why? Because planet Mars, now Mars is an interesting planet. Now look, we're Cancer ascendants, as we know. For us Cancerians, Mars is a very good planet, yeah? But for a lot of people, he's not a good planet, okay?
So Hogarth, me and Ellen and my partner and even our friend Daniel, who's an amazing archetypal consultant and healer, we all have Cancer ascendant.
Yeah, we're all Cancer ascendant. It's remarkable. And I would imagine as well, a lot of the people watching will also be Cancer ascendant, or at least a water sign. So it wouldn't surprise me if we have a lot of Cancerians, a lot of Scorpios, and a lot of Pisceans. Some people may not think they're that sign because they're probably looking at the Western, but I bet you bottom dollar, if I was looking at them in terms of Vedic, there'll be a water sign in there, because all the water signs are very spiritual. Can you imagine? Water is movable. It's very permeable. Just like with Dr. Umamoto, you know, when you put the symbols, when you put language around water, the molecular structure of the water changes.
Matsuru Emoto. Yeah.
That's the one. And that's why people that are in a water sign are so perceptive, you know, it's very spiritual. But anyway, I was getting sidetracked. So are you asking me about, what was I just talking about now? It was,
what is going on, like, and the dates, like, you know.
Yes, that's it. So,
when can we travel again? When can we go to restaurants? Maybe that's the real question. When can we hug each other?
Well, I've got an answer for that, but what I'll quickly tell you, basically, when planet Mars went through sidereal Virgo in September 2019, that was when the beginning of the brewings of the virus started to begin, would be around that time. And as it moved through, and particularly when it moved through Scorpio, there's certain star sections, and when Mars moved through the tail of the Scorpion, this is known as the point of infections and poison, yeah? But then you also have the invisible nodes of the moon moving backwards that also cause things like pandemics and disease and stuff. And they came back to the position they were in on September the 11th, because it takes them about 18.5 to 19 years to come back to where they were originally. Yeah, so if we think of September 11th and all these things, so all these triggers came together. But then lockdown, when Saturn moved into Capricorn and crossed over Pluto around that kind of late January, February time, that's when the official lockdown began. Because if you can imagine, Pluto is intensity. Pluto is like it was discovered in like the atom bomb era. It is powerful transformation. Pluto is also god of the underworld. So what's happening is it's like the journey, the ancients used to call it the journey of Ianana,
yeah,
which is Venus. And basically there's a period of time when Venus disappears for 9 months. And it's said that she goes down into the underworld to find her husband. But in terms of finding him, she must face all of her demons and purify all of her demons to come out of the other side, renewed and reborn. So this is happening to every single person on some level or another on planet Earth. And that's why it's so intense.
So when you say every person is going through this underworld thing, what is the purpose of it, Hogarth? Why can't we have a normal life just full of joy and la 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 la? Why do we have to face this shit? Sorry, I'm just asking for everybody. Because I studied archetypal psychology because I wanted to be a Jungian astrologer. No, I wanted to be a Jungian psychologist. Jungian therapist, and I was reading all the myths, so I know every female myth. Every female myth is full of pain, full of suffering. But why do you think why does this have to happen to us as human beings, or us as a race, or why is it necessary?
The reason why it's necessary is that we're all here to purify, transform, learn our karmas, transcend our karmas, and raise the vibration of human consciousness, in essence, to kind of recreate Eden on Earth. Yeah, if we think of it that way. In terms of, you know, hell doesn't actually really exist in that traditional kind of biblical sense. We can. But when we don't do the right things, when we harm others or live out of step with our natural dharma and our karma, we start to create, what happens? We start to get more anxiety, fear, we start attracting negativity, blah, blah, blah. Do you see, it kind of works that way. It's all to do with energy. But essentially, we're all here. This is Earth School. So we are spirits having a human experience in order to understand and feel life, and to transcend and grow in our awareness. And our karmas are just reflective of some of the loops or some of the patterns that we may have repeated, that we need to transcend. So one of the best ways to kind of like really kind of evolve very, very quickly and go up to the next level is we need to look like this whole underground, like going through, like almost like the journey that we're going through.
It's not underground, it's underworld. Underground is too soft a word.
I know, it's underworld.
The underworld is where you get raped, you get like kidnapped. Yeah, that's in the myths, right?
Yeah,
it's never voluntarily, ever voluntarily.
Yeah, because it's Pluto, and now we've got to understand that. And although Pluto is a very, very small planet, they demoted Pluto to a planetoid. I don't think that's correct, because he's so powerful, he should just be given the title of planet back, because Pluto is the most intense in transformations that we can go through. And he represents the worst of all that humanity can do, but also the best. Like when you come through a Pluto transit and you have faced your demons and you surrender to the transformation, and you go through whatever it is you have to go through. Because lots of my friends, for example, people are having panic attacks out of nowhere. People are having nightmares. People are just having weird, very strong, deep emotional stuff.
Yes.
Transformation happening, and it can be very hard to handle, because Pluto is like the most hardcore planet, because his motto is like, well, transform or die or whatever. He's like, you transform or else. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh my goodness, it can feel really brutal. And it can
I think you even said grow or die, right? Transform or die. When we say die, it is not because something physical is killing us. it's because our own fears and our own demons are making us have all these, like, what is it, psychosomatic experiences. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And what Pluto does as well, which is, and this is the thing, what is so uncomfortable with Pluto, Pluto is like the sewer man, yeah? He just puts the thing in, you know, he puts his net in and he just dredges up whatever's there, and he's like, you need to look at this. And it stinks, and it's just, you know, it's very, very unpleasant.
There's no denial possible even, right?
No denial, no denial. So everyone's facing this. However, people have different experiences. So the more work that we have done, the more shadow work that we have done, because the shadow is very important part of
very important. Light workers, pay attention.
Yeah, it can't all be light. We need
I'm light, you're the shadow. No, it's not like that. No.
Exactly, it has to be integrated. We need to accept that shadow part of ourselves and understand how much power is there. And when we can integrate our shadow, when we can look at ourselves, the parts of ourselves that we don't like, or, you know, might be a bit shitty, or the parts of ourselves that have violent thoughts or weird fantasies or whatever, when we can truly accept those things, face our shadow and understand that we can still be people of the light. And when we really integrate those things and we start to come out of the out of Hades, the gift we get from Pluto is profound. The gift you get is true transcendental power, in the sense of that you become so kind of, you're so integrated, you're so built up that you can face almost any challenge in life. Manifestation comes faster as well. You can start, you know, communicating with different realms. The intuition just leaps up by tenfold. You can tell if someone's got a good or a bad intention for you, because you got to remember, when Pluto was discovered, it was discovered in the nuclear age. You know, if we think of the X-ray age, so when the Pluto and the shadow is kind of fully integrated, it gives you a kind of almost an X-ray vision into people's intentions and their soul. And that's very useful for avoiding danger or what have you, or making very good decisions. So the reward is worth it, although it's terrifying.
So to go back to,
I just want to ask something quickly. So you said in our session that 25% is free will. So we have this beautiful earth that we're creating together, and we're going into the underworld and we're coming out of it. Like, how's that going to play into it? Like, are we going to be able to create this, or is there like a chance that we'll do something else?
Well, the thing is, what's interesting is that we're creating this all now. And it all depends on a person's perspective on how they view reality. So say, for example, where I live locally in London Fields, it's blissful. It truly is like, it's like an idyll. Of course, in the background, we know we've got the coronavirus, and we know, you know, people are succumbing and stuff like that. Thankfully, the numbers are starting to come down. But this flip side, people are so relaxed. People are just enjoying nature. The vibration has it's just gone up. People are smiling, energetic. They're becoming more intuitive. People are talking to each other, even though they're socially distancing. The sense of community, the sense of charity. So really, through this darkness, we can all see something very beautiful is emerging. People are really beginning to appreciate and understand nature. It's wonderful. I really love it. Like when I'm in the park and just other people's dogs just come up to me and start licking my face or something like that, or you know, playing with people. I was actually with Dan a few weeks ago, because we've both been socially isolating, so we've not seen other people, so we were just hanging out, and there was something remarkable that happened. We were near the Thames on a little piece of grass, and then people were just sitting there. There were only about maybe 8 people there, and then suddenly these geese flew down into the middle of the people and just started pecking and feeding. People started feeding them, but it was the respect that everyone showed. Like once one of the kids wanted to run up to the geese, and like the parent just held the kid back, and then the dogs wanted to kind of interact with the geese, and the owners held the dogs back, and everyone just respected like nature. And this just happened intuitively. So that we're not out the other side, but I can begin to see there is this beautiful side, and it's up to us to keep it. If we keep just saying, oh, let's just go back to how we were before with all the mass pollution and all that kind of stuff, that's not going to be good. But I think we're getting there.
So going back to, you know, there's also a side to this lockdown where we just don't know what to believe anymore, Hogarth. Like there's so much news. A lot of news is being banned. You wonder why. A lot of news is, you know, you wonder whether it's real or not. How is that playing into how can we trust? How can we create something where we face our own demons so that we can trust maybe our governments and our corporations and even the news? Is there a correlation between our own shadow work? Because me and Ellen, we believe, you know, we're studying the teachers that say that we're in a holographic universe. One person can affect the whole. One person in alignment is much more powerful than millions that are not. So we don't really buy into the fear machine telling us that we're powerless, we're going to die, we're going to be like whatever, chipped, or I don't know what's being told. But how does astrology look at this correlation between how we are co-creating the horrible news, the very scary news, all the things that we don't even know about, the secret, let's say. How does that correlate to how we can deal with it as people who are a bit more aware? Maybe, you know, I could imagine quite a lot of people would like to have the chart read by you, maybe for their business or for their relationship or whatever. How would you say, would their chart or the constellations going on give us a clue as to how we can go through this underworld experience?
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you said that actually, because I've created a new consultation service, and it's called a Life Path. It's a life path and business consultation. So what I do is, if you think of like where I did your overall chart consultation with you, Angelique, where we looked at you as a whole energetic being, and of course that was very insightful for you. But then with this consult, you will get that. But with this consultation, we will look at the business as well. So anyone that is self-employed, anyone that's thinking of starting a business or has a business up and running and they've got some staff, we look at the nature of that business and the alignment of that business with the chart. Because there are certain planets, and depending on their degrees and their positions, which can also indicate the career. So what is the ideal? The ideal job, as it were, which won't even feel like a job, is work that we do that is in alignment with our dharma, our life path, our highest purpose, but yet is in service to others in some way, because we're all in service to others in some kind of way. Everyone, even a hedge fund billionaire is in service to someone. The people that are invested in the hedge fund, or even down to, you know, someone who is working in a shop, you know, selling fruit and veg, or giving someone a haircut. That at that level of service that we're supposed to operate at will be indicated in the chart. But you get enjoyment and you get flow when they're aligned. So going back to like what you were saying, how do we navigate all of this kind of chaos and all of this strange stuff going on?
Because some industries might even be in bankruptcy right now, right? So a lot of people, a lot of business owners, a lot of industries, we talked extensively about which industries are going to suffer. But here I'm thinking, you know, like we have a lot of self-employed people here. So how can a person use this underground experience to come out with all the gifts of Pluto that we just discussed, rather than putting their head in the sand and think, oh, it's going to go back to normal, which you actually, according to the transit, you don't see it going back to normal.
No, not quite. There will be some elements that will go back to normal. But if we think, for example, international flight and travel, you know, it's going to be at least a few months before we can even consider jumping on a plane, really, because we're going to have methods of testing. You know, do you have the virus or not? And I think when it comes to flights and international travel, that's probably where we're going to feel a bit more of like the Big Brother type stuff. In terms of like the chaos that's going on now, we need to understand that we're in the nodes of the moon. I mentioned it before, which is this thing called a Kala Sarpa Yoga. Maybe do you think I should get the sheet just so people can understand again? But it's basically the nodes of the moon are invisible. And when all the planets are on one side of the nodes of the moon, we're all under fate and destiny. Now, the north node of the moon, which is called Rahu, has a lot to do with chaos and a lot to do with false truths being spoken.
So that's going on right now, or has it been ongoing for many, many years?
Well, it depends on the sign which Rahu is in. And at the moment, Rahu is in the sign of Gemini. Now, Gemini is the sign of what? Communication, isn't it? And I've said in my YouTube videos that the coronavirus is a Gemini disease. Now, why? In medical astrology, Gemini obviously is not only it's not only the communicating sign. So of course you can imagine it's communication, all these different things, the intellect, how we get ideas across, etc. It's also, Mercury rules the throat chakra. But not only that, Gemini is specific to the hands and the tops of the lungs in particular. So we can see, if you think about when you put all of that together, what is coronavirus? It's a social disease, because Gemini is the most social sign, and it comes through what? The breath, the lungs, holding, touching, commuting, because Mercury also covers commuting as well. Communication, transport, flights, and we see all of this stuff is being locked down. And this is why it's so difficult, because Mercury is a very important planet, and we normally only think about it when we have Mercury retrograde, isn't it? Most people know Mercury retrograde. This is like a gigantic, you know, Mount Everest retrograde for everyone on planet Earth, isn't it? So there's that. But how do we get through? It's going to require a combination of factors. On one level, we have to keep the vibration high, which is don't buy into the fear.
Hello, we know that, but it's so easy said than done. And actually, Michael Bernard Beckwith says spiritual community grants you immunity. That's why Ellen and I, you know, and also as a Flamingo, which is a Dr. Joe group student, we're doing a lot of community work. And I think those people are doing much better than people who are not in a community.
Absolutely, because you get charged up. And the way it kind of works is, every planet has its levels of ascension. So every planet has its shadow, its lowest form, and then its kind of mid form, and then its highest form. Everyone on planet Earth, we all manifest the lowest form first, and you can see it in childhood. When you see, and there's certain stages, you've seen it where kids get violent over toys or sweets or blah, 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 and bash each other over the head. And we tell the child, no, don't do this, that, and the other. Some of us never grow out of it. It's true. Some people never grow out of that stage.
A lot of parents will suddenly have charts done for their kids here, I know for sure.
Oh, and that is fascinating, because when you know your child's chart, everything happens in stages, but you can just ease them through those bits and it just helps them speed up. But again, it all depends on the karma. Most people, when they reach adulthood, they're between the lower energies and somewhere around the middle. So the lower energies are known as tamasic in Vedic astrology, which means it's very earthly and much more me oriented and self-preservation.
Yeah.
So like, for example, when you saw the food hoarding, that was the lower energy of Saturn. Yeah.
Fear.
That was exactly, that was the expression of the lower energy of Saturn. Why? Saturn represents the base chakra, the red one, which is survival, self-preservation. Saturn is like the last resort. Saturn also represents Mother Nature in its pure, raw, and unspoilt form. Because Saturn is also spectacularly beautiful, but we know nature is what? Tough. Only the fittest survive, isn't it? So that's was the first feeling. So people started hoarding and hoarding and hoarding, buying tons of toilet paper. That, I mean, some people have got toilet paper for a whole year now. I mean, it was just ridiculous, wasn't it? You know,
I don't.
But the thing is, in the supermarket, I had to say to people, you can't eat toilet paper, people. You can't eat it. So there was all that hoarding and all that stuff. That was the lower vibration of Saturn. And then you would have maybe the mid vibration of Saturn, which is more kind of like to do with our daily structures, our routines, our comfort zones, maybe the areas we don't want to change so much. The areas where we're a little bit inflexible, a little bit rigid, maybe slightly set in our ways, where we like things to be a certain way. And we all know this because we all have Saturn in our charts, and we all understand it's our old habitual habits. Think of old habitual habits that are hard to break down, or where we put up barriers, or where we like to shut people out, or, you know, this is very Saturnian. And again, it's just part of our self-preservation, because remember, Saturn is about survival. We put up walls and we put up barriers in order to survive, because maybe we feel threatened by something. However, the highest vibration of Saturn is something incredible. And this is why it's really worth looking at where Saturn falls in the chart and where those karmas are. Because when we embrace those karmas, when we embrace those teachings, like I was having a chat with Ellen, and thinking of how much she's had to learn. Any parent knows this. Any person who's got a big project knows this, because a business is also a baby. A book is also a baby. It's anything that we create. It is a child of ours. And what happens? Children teach us so much. How? Because everything goes wrong, or everything gets turned upside down. It takes over our whole life. You know what I mean? We have to learn so much so quickly. There's so much stuff. I mean, if you just think, our karmas are like dirty nappies, aren't they? You know, they smell, but the baby's bottom has to be wiped. Yeah?
Oh, gosh. I will remember that definition. Yeah.
You can't be like, not today, baby. Can you just go away? I don't want you anymore, just for today.
Exactly. Because baby's bottom has to be wiped. Now, imagine if a person doesn't do their karmas and they don't wipe the baby's bottom. Imagine what happens. Imagine.
Messy.
So when it gets messy, things start to get a bit smelly. So it's like that with our karmas. When we don't process our karmas and just try and work through them gradually, it's like wearing a dirty nappy that gets fuller and fuller with more junk. Yeah? So you can see, and this is why when we observe, when people don't face their responsibilities, or
their shadow,
don't face their shadow, keep going on shady, you know, all that stuff, you notice with those people, you notice that they start to accumulate. Yeah, they start to accumulate even more residual stuff. Also as well, those people tend to age faster as well.
That's not me then. That's not me. So
you'll notice.
I have a question about the shadow work, because shadow work, you know, you have with the Jungian psychology that we studied, went really deep. It went about, you know, the infinite self. You don't even know what it is, so it's a mystery. And then you have all the archetypes, and then the shadow is like such a fundamental piece of work, because that is where we have the golden shadow, which is all the stuff that we cannot even own, because it's like we just rather put somebody on a pedestal and not own it. That's why we vilified leaders, we vilified gurus. At some point, you know, Jesus always got killed, or you know, the most famous people are always vilified in the press. And then you have people that are the shadow to us. It's like, oh, these people, can you maybe teach us, because there is so much media going on where it's so easy to project a shadow onto other people. But if we understand that maybe we have a say in how this is going to unfold, and we're all going together down in this underworld, how can we do our shadow work feeling so powerless? Because, and I don't accept feeling powerless. This is one of the things that we really teach in the appreciation game. You're not powerless, you know, and we give a lot.
I know, especially with your chart.
No, I'm super powerful.
With your chart.
Yeah, and so no, everybody is powerful. So maybe can you explain to maybe people who are, you know, maybe just a little bit puzzled, maybe a bit clueless about, you know, how can I allow astrology to inform me? Because actually, you know, we're listening to a lot of things about ascension, about, you know, I don't know, whatever, aliens and whatever. I don't know what to believe anymore, but maybe the Vedic astrology has some guidance for us.
All right, I'll tackle it in two ways. The first way, I'll share a quick story about myself. I wasn't expecting this to be so personal, but anyway.
You're gonna be a celebrity anyway, so you gotta get used to
it. So what I will share with you is this, and this is something I don't share with many people, but hey, may as well share it now. Once upon a time, a few years ago, in my late 20s, and I realized, oh, actually, yeah, it would be my Saturn return. I actually met my own shadow. I met my own shadow. I met him. Now, this was to do, and it's the usual, as we all know, for a lot of people, it was a relationship that didn't work out. It was just a disaster. And I just felt like I was on the floor, that I was going to absolutely die. We've all been there. We've all been there. Some of us are lucky, but Cancerians in particular, you know, it takes us a while. You know, it really does. It takes us a while to get there. And it's because Saturn is the lord of our 7th house of relationships and 8th house as well, which is also to do with relationships. But that's a side thing. But anyway, so I reached this point where I realized I went on, like what they would say, the dark journey of the soul, which of course you would know about. And I literally kind of like went down sort of like into Hades, and I went down into this very dark dungeon. It was like a castle,
but it was an apartment in London somewhere, but it felt like a castle.
Yeah, I was like in my mind's eye, because you know, our dreams, and particularly as well when it comes to shadow, it comes via that subconscious, you know, our dreams. And I went into this dream state. I can't even remember if it was day or night, but it was so powerful. Anyway, it was dark, and I can actually see the castle now. One of those big, dark, like kind of black castles, like something you would see. There wasn't the flashes of lightning, but it was foreboding, you know, with scraggly forest and stuff. Anyway, I was being led. I was just being pulled along. Anyway, I went through down into these deep, dark dungeons, going through all these various different caged off areas. And then I reached this point where I knew I had to stop, and I saw this cell, and behind in that cell, you know, I don't know how it was illuminated, there must have been a little candle somewhere, but I could see just enough. There was a version of myself, but it was a darker version of myself. You know, my analogy for it, actually, this is a very good example of the shadow. If you think of the ballet Swan Lake.
Yeah, you have those two
ballerinas. And you have Odette and Odile. And Odile represents the shadow side. If you watch that, it's a very good analogy of a transition, like journey of the soul, you know, journey of the dark night of the soul. Anyway, he was there. So he looked like me, but we didn't look exactly the same. He was broader, more swarthy, had longer hair, was quite physically powerful, very kind of like powerful, dressed differently. You know, I'm quite refined, and he was quite rustic. Like, one of the best ways I can describe him, he looked like a strong, like, peasant kind of guy, very intelligent, but someone who looked like they could build a house or dig a field or something like that. And we were just having this dialogue, and basically he spoke to me, and we were talking, and he was just like, look, you know, if you don't accept me and accept that I'm part of you, I'm going to ruin your life.
Simple, guys. Just accept your dark shadow because you don't want this ruin.
Yeah, he just
so
said,
easy said.
Yeah, and it was as bold and as clear as that, because the shadow is very profound. Remember, it's not very articulate. It doesn't use a lot of words, but when it speaks, it's like boom. And
Hogarth, going back, are all these things that we're seeing in the media where there's so much like, we just don't know it's true anymore. Are they showing us our shadow that we need to accept that maybe on some level we are lying to ourselves? We are in denial of our own false media, of our own inner false media.
Yes and no, like, because basically what's happening is we have multiple timelines.
I love timelines.
Yeah, we have multiple timelines and strands of potentiality, all playing out at the same time. So when people talk about there's a dark cabal out there and blah, 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 yes, there is a dark cabal, but it doesn't mean that they're going to win. Do you see?
Not in my timeline.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that they're going to win, because what I'm finding is that because you know there's all these group meditations going on. I did one of these big group meditations. I think you know the one back in the 4th of April, I think it was. And basically everyone joined in, and they were able to show using this graph how the energy of the earth went up, and there's a lot of light pouring in. But at the same time, you've got, you know, the certain, shall we say, like the Trump-esque people of the world who are clearly obviously working for the dark. They're trying their thing, but you see it's sort of falling apart. It doesn't make sense. It's not congruent. So what we need to do is we need to comply with the restrictions long enough in order to flatten the curve and have the virus go down, but without giving up our personal sovereignty either. So when we
personal sovereignty, such a big word. It is actually, this is the whole game that Ellen and I downloaded. It's all about personal sovereignty. It's like you don't pay too much attention to the fear machine that tells you you're powerless. You're just gonna be, all your freedom is gonna be taken away. No, I'm not gonna believe that. Yeah,
you just basically, when those ideas, and for anyone that's watching, when those ideas come and you start feeling that you're getting programmed by that, because remember, this is a form of programming, throw it out. You are free, you're powerful. Just think of the life that you actually just want to live, but also as well, just think of all the beauty that is around. Because like here, because like for me, like I'm on furlough from like a couple of jobs of mine, so I'm just like, great, I'm not having to work. I don't have to worry about certain things. The weather is fantastic. I can cook good food. Some of the, even though I have been a bit bored of my own cooking, but I've kind of come back. The shops are on where I live, the shops are practicing social distancing, but they're selling Prosecco, they're selling Aperol Spritz, there's juice, there's food. Everyone is able to have whatever it is they need. People go into the park for a little bit of time and then they go back home, and it's like being on a holiday. So when people are in that energy state, there's no way that those darker energies are going to be able to get hold of you. No one like that is going to take some kind of tag or chip. I mean, I'm never going to do it. So irrespective. So it's all about trying to find the light and the positives of this scenario, because on one level it's lockdown, but on another level, it can also be tremendously free as well, because there's no rushing, there's traffic has completely reduced, there's fresh air. Think of all the asthmatics that are suddenly seeing an improvement in their lungs. You know, people getting better sleep, you know, there's just so many, the benefits outweigh, definitely. High vibration.
This is better than we could imagine, right, Ellen?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ellen, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Because
No,
it
I think
feels
we
like
went through them all, right? But yeah, we want to know about Hogarth and his readings. What type of readings do you give?
yeah, how can people here use Vedic astrology and the type of readings you give to help them navigate this period? Because we were talking about, you were seeing in the charts that maybe it would end around July, but then actually the real ending of all the planets aligning was September. And then, you know, a lot of things can happen if you don't do anything proactive with your business. And then you actually said this whole transit was actually 4 years, another 4 years. And actually then we're moving into Aquarius. So there's so much is going to change that, you know, if you're actually not prepared for it, you're going to be like, you know, the dinosaur, you know, with your business or whatever you're doing. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I'll do is I'll quickly give you some dates, and then so you can understand. So in terms of like how things are likely to pan out. So because I wrote down the question, which was like, how long will this last? So planet Mercury has now moved out of Pisces, which is his debilitation sign, where he doesn't function so well. And I knew that would be the peak of a lot of deaths, for a lot of for the deaths around the world. Not for America. America's different. They're on a different timeline.
Their chart is quite dramatic as well. The chart, because you explained it in some of your blogs and YouTube.
Profound.
Yeah,
profound. The changes for America are just off the chart, because
you saw it even before it happened.
Happening in their second half.
Yeah, and you saw it before it happened.
It's just, that place there's so much more to come out of the wash. Europe and the rest of the world is going to feel more like things are sane. America is just cray. They're having this in their second house, which is money, values, job, security. I think at the moment it's over 22 million unemployed in the United States. So they're having an extraordinary thing, but they're on a different timeline continuum, obviously, like with Trump and what have you. But Mercury has just moved into Aries, and it moved in on the 24th. Yeah, so just a couple of days ago. Aries is a cardinal sign, a movable sign, and it goes forward. Think of Aries, the ram. It always likes to move, doesn't it? With pace, with speed. If we think of Ellen's got her sun in Aries, so it gives a lot of vitality, energy, moving forward. Yeah. So this is why we've seen people are asking, when is the lockdown going to end? Have you noticed that, you know, governments are now trying to put in plans for how to actually reduce the lockdown? So that's from the 24th. So that you can see that energy is happening now. And I know, for example, in Belgium, they're looking at opening some shops. I think same with Germany. I don't know how it is in Holland. Is it similar in Holland?
Also more stuff going back, like schools and stuff, like partial. A lot of things are partially coming back. Yeah.
Perfect. So you see, so that Aries energy is coming through to push things forward more. Then on the 9th of May, Mercury moves into Taurus. Yeah. And Taurus is ruled by Venus. And Venus is restaurants, food, wine, cheese, you know, all that stuff, the good life, bit of fashion as well, gardening, flowers. We may be able to buy flowers again, because we know this has been a massive thing for you guys. I was watching it on the news.
Yeah.
People can't sell their
Disastrous.
flowers.
Disastrous.
Yeah, people can't sell their flowers. And although on one level we may think, oh, well, it's just flowers, oh, you know, not the end of the world. Flowers are so symbolic. Because we use them for what? To give praise, honor, appreciation. We all know what it's like when you're bought flowers. You know, it just changes your whole mood. But think of all the people that have been buried, sadly, without any flowers. It's almost unthinkable. Or people that have not been able to get married. So I'm not saying that wedding ceremonies will be back. I think people will be able to get married in September when Venus has actually moved outside of the Kala Sarpa Yoga. But we could see from May where people might be able to start going back to restaurants again, but with social isolation, maybe with a restriction of 5 or less people or something like that. But I would imagine by May, people will be really calling out for this, because I don't know about you, but I am absolutely desperate to sit down and eat at a restaurant.
I just want a good coffee and a good juice, for God's sake. Yeah.
Oh, well, you should come to London. They're doing iced coffees and everything. But I want a meal. I want to have a sit down, proper meal cooked by someone else, with friends. I eat, pay, and walk out. You know, so that's more likely from the 9th of May, which kind of makes sense, doesn't it? If schools are opening, if you think of that timeline, it's kind of logical. It's only a matter of time before.
Actually, for restaurants here.
You're joking, really?
Yeah, like
really?
A friend of mine works at the restaurant. He's thinking it's going to be 10th of May, or at least partial. Yeah.
Oh, we're so going to go restaurants.
Yeah.
But isn't that amazing? Because on the 9th of May, Mercury moves into Taurus. So you see, like I said, you know, it's like food, restaurants. There you go. So that will carry on. So hopefully we'll be able to have that, and things will feel a bit more normal when we can do that. Then, however, on May 15th, Pluto, Saturn, well, Pluto's already retrograde, but Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus all go retrograde. They all go backwards. So what does this mean? What this could mean is, after they've opened up all the restaurants and we're having a nice time and we're drinking our Prosecco and we're having our wine and having our food, they may be like, oh, the spike has come back. Let's go back into lockdown. Now, I'm not saying lockdown will actually happen again. And I feel like actually this is probably more relevant for the United States, because in Europe and the rest of the world, we're trying to be sensible about it, yeah? America, they're reopening parts of the economy while the death toll is actually still going up. Mm-hmm. So it could mean that when the planets go retrograde on the 15th of May, it could mean it happens more in America, and we're just looking and just going, oh my God. There could be a little bit here and there, like some little pockets, but in truth, I don't think anyone really wants to go back into lockdown. But that's just a heads up. So I would say to people, with all that retrograde action, it may not be the time to launch any big ventures, any big business ventures, but it is a good time to kind of really consolidate, really put down some structured plans of how to kind of transform and kind of move forward. That would be a good time. It doesn't mean just don't do anything, but just be aware that there's going to be this sensation of almost being pulled back in the world. But it's definitely going to be a time for review, but it could also be a great time for restructuring as well, because, you know, Saturn and Jupiter, you know, they're
and a lot of businesses don't have a choice but to restructure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's when a lot of, because basically, if you think of it this way, when the restaurants and stuff open, we need to also remember, think of all of the supply chains that have become backed up. So when I see that retrograde happening on the 15th of May with all those 4 planets, when I think of that timeline, it's actually quite consistent, isn't it? With companies reevaluating their supply chains, their clients, how they're going to make profits in the future, because Jupiter is also a planet of money, Venus is the planet of money, Saturn is the planet of structure, Pluto is the planet of transformation. So you can imagine all of that. How do I transform my finances and my business and my supply chains to be ready for that new future? So you can see the energy of that is actually happening in the planets, and it starts on the 14th of May, which of course is not too long away. And of course, this makes sense because in the UK, they've been saying, look, you need to get the economy open by June, otherwise we're finished. So this, I think this will be the point where governments and companies around the world really start to do the heavy lifting work in terms of that real restructuring, in terms of what that new future is going to be. What I would say to people that are watching this, who have their own business or are thinking of restructuring, this is just a process that is unavoidable. What's happening is with the energies is that everything is moving into the age of Aquarius. Yeah, everything is moving that way. What I should say is that on the winter solstice, on certain someone's birthday, who shall remain unnamed, but you know, someone's special birthday, and basically at 4 p.m. UK time on the 21st of the 12th, 2020, Saturn and Jupiter become exactly conjunct, which means they're literally over each other like that. When that happens, that starts the new 20-year cycle for everyone. Yeah, basically it starts to, it happens actually right at the teetering edge of Capricorn, sidereally, but it's pretty much in Aquarius. It starts that Aquarian energy anyway. So that means wherever this conjunction happens in a person's chart, that is the area of life where they have to contribute to humanity and themselves for the next 20 years, because it's a 20-year cycle. So this is when you can say officially, like, the age of Aquarius really begins, because after that, Saturn spends 2.5 years in Aquarius anyway, because those two are back to back. So what I would say to anyone watching now, obviously it's useful, get a chart. I mean, you can have a consultation with me on my website on thearchetypalblueprint.com, or any other astrologer, or I would say maybe go with a Vedic astrologer because it's going to be more accurate. But of course, people are welcome to come to me. Maybe there can be some detail posted, but I'll say it at the end. But this is really, really crucial to understand where this is happening in the chart, the house and the sign, because that will indicate the energies, the forces that are at play, where the planets are trying to bring that soul expression out of you to a higher refinement. Yeah.
So what are the things that we will face when we know we are not working with the stars, we're working against it? Because I can imagine, you know, like I have to work on my self-esteem stuff, yeah, and my worst case scenario thing, because although I'm teaching the best case scenario, definitely in my love life, it's really hard to go to best case scenario. It's like I'm so stuck in this old habit of catastrophic thinking. My whole body, it's like having these panic attacks and these temper tantrums. And so how can people, like, can they even do it without like help of a healer or energy work or group work? I can imagine it's pretty hard. And I mean, a lot of people are having a lot of stuff going on.
Oh yeah. So what I did was I came up with some suggestions on like with question 6, how can we change? So to give you an analogy of what is actually going on in terms of like the energy of the whole world, the first thing is planet Earth And our whole solar system is moving through, including the sun, is moving through a portion of the galaxy that is higher energy. Yeah. So planet Earth is basically going from 3D to basically 5D. Yeah.
Amazing.
This is
We
why
love
this is
5D.
why a lot of this is why a lot of people are feeling a lot of intensity, and a lot of stuff is kind of coming up. But the analogy, how I'm going to describe in terms of how those two energies coexist, I'm going to use the analogy of cheese. And you're probably thinking, what has cheese got to do with this?
But we're Dutch, so we're happy. We get it.
Of course, you guys know about cheese.
Yeah.
So if you think of it this way, at the moment, or shall we say pre-lockdown, we were like in a giant vat of milk, yeah, all blended up. And you know what milk is like? Some of it is watery, some of it is creamy, yeah? And you know how they say the cream rises to the top. But think of what happens to milk when you add rennet to it. Coronavirus is the rennet you add to the milk, and what does it do? It makes it curdle, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You add it, so everything, or it's getting better now, but everything has felt muddled and curdled, hasn't it? And then what happens is things separate into curds and whey. Yeah, you get this separation, don't you? So you've got this curdy part, and then you've got this watery part underneath. You could say that if we were to turn it the other way around, you could say the three-dimensional part is the curds. Yeah, it's thicker. Yeah, and the whey is lighter. So you could say almost that's like the five-dimensional energy. So if you think about it, if you're ascending and you're going with the planet and you're doing the spiritual work and you're digging deep and you're facing your shadows and you know you're working through all of your stuff, you're going to get lighter, aren't you?
Completely.
And
yeah.
You're going to get much lighter. So for people that do the work, manifestation, ideas, inspiration, everything is going to come much faster. Downloads,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're not in the curds.
Yeah.
So people that stay in the three-dimensional, it doesn't mean they can't manifest. Of course they can, but it's going to be more difficult. There's going to be more competition. There's going to be more elbow rubbing because it's thicker. It's heavier energy, and the whole earth is moving up into the higher levels. So three-dimensional earth will still exist, but it's going to be more difficult to live there because there's going to be less light workers in that mix, in that milk.
The 3D world was always very bullshit hard work.
Yeah.
So, you know,
exactly.
And we were taught by one of the teachers that we follow is that why would you try and do anything in the 3D world when you actually have to go to the fifth dimension to create from the fifth dimension? You can only create in the fifth dimension when you stop thinking in lack, when you stop thinking from programs, and when you stop thinking from separation. So in the fifth dimension, he teaches us, we're actually only operating in unity consciousness, which is everything is us. Every timeline and already exists. And if you want to, if whatever you want, you need to become a vibrational match to it. So if you want to become wealthy, get over your scarcity consciousness. If you want to be loved, get over your self-esteem issue. And this is where we are all, the fifth dimensional work is all about our self-confrontation. It's about the shadow work with our own programs.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
When to manifest, you need to be
absolutely. Yeah. You just, exactly. Exactly. And you know, I'm glad you like that. So I mean, we still obviously on a certain level, I mean, it's not like we're going to be levitating out of our front doors and stuff like that. Three-dimensional reality, you know, three-dimensional reality will still be there. And of course, you know, everyone likes a bit of cheese now and again, so of course we need to do earthly things. We still need to respect our physical body, give it nutrition and health and stuff like that. But when we go up into that higher level, and I've got some tips of how people can stay at that level, it's that when one of the best ways, it's like, you know, when, like, you know how, like, I don't know how the weather's been for you, but in the UK it has been blissful. But you know, when you look out, but especially like as well, like in Holland, you've got a lot of tulips, so, you know, a lot of beautiful stuff. Even just looking at the water, I can imagine the canals must be like crystal. You know, all the plants and stuff growing on the side must be just looking absolutely stunning. When you breathe in that fresh air, you breathe in that higher vibration, that purity, and you allow that to kind of let yourself swim up. You will still have your mundane realities, but everything is so crazy and everyone's in the same boat. There's almost no point worrying about it because everyone is already, oh, look, someone just said the canals are so clean now. Yes, they are. I mean, the canals are like mirrors now in London. It is remarkable. Has anyone seen Venice? Venice just...
Yes, but I want to be here to help the people that need to restructure their lives. Let's talk about maybe people who can actually, they are not making any money right now. Mm-hmm. Because I know a lot of people who are self-employed. It's contacts, like people who do hairdressing, people who are beauticians, people who are physiotherapists, you know, even dentists, you know. How could you maybe advise them? Let's say there is an economic recession. How can they prepare, maybe using Vedic astrology, how they can actually revamp or maybe get more of these manifestations that are coming from a higher, maybe transformed level of consciousness? Is there an idea that you could give us around, you know, at that, you know, maybe the chart that you were talking about, or maybe the talents that they have?
I think what would be best, because this is why I created this program, because it's actually not program, this consultation, because it's actually specific. So as Ellen and Angelique will know, when someone has a consultation with me, it's bespoke. And I look deep into the energy of what's actually going on. But I also look at the points of destiny, the nodes of the moon, the direction in life that we're supposed to be going. And then also what's extra in this consultation is that we then look at the business side of it. So in order for, because look, if one is a hairdresser or barber or whatever, I would say, first of all, don't worry. People will need their haircuts. And in fact, it's probably going to be one of the first things that people are going to do is get a haircut. Yeah. So it's more that duration of lockdown, really, which affects that. So people will still need massages. Trust me, I think a lot of people anyone who's got any money to spend, that's one of the first things they're going to do is just to have someone cut their hair. Is, you know, think of all the people who have not, I mean, I've not had a haircut. I can't remember the last time I had a haircut now, but
I'm looking like a hippie. My eyebrows are getting bushy, for God's sake, man. I'm like, I'm manifesting this lockdown to be over as soon as possible. Yeah.
Absolutely. So those people, so what they need to focus on is damage limitation. So the practical things they need to do is, how can they minimize costs? This is the time to either sell stuff online that you can get rid of, declutter, get yourself, particularly if it's hands-on business, even though the money's not coming in, get yourself ready for business, in the sense of, like, look at all your inventory, look at all your kit, polish everything, get everything neat and tidy as if you were opening tomorrow, because that in of itself sets almost like an energy hologram where you're already there. Like,
I love it. Energy hologram, like Ellen. Yeah. We keep getting the holographic stuff coming to us. Love it, Hogarth. Yeah.
So you know, you can imagine, you know, you can imagine like that way. So it's almost like, get yourself ready as if business is going to happen tomorrow. So then when the lockdown does happen, it's just like boom. Someone was just saying that they're a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
So a tip for photographers, I saw something on the news over here which was really useful. To all photographers out there, everything is so extraordinary, people want to document the moment for posterity. So I was watching something on the news where an Irish photographer was just at social distancing, photographing people on their doorstep, just outside of the house, with their family, with their kids, to document that moment. So I would say anyone that's a photographer, think of how you can use your recording skills in an innovative way to document these moments for people, and then basically deliver that to them either electronically, or you print it off and you post it to them or something like that. So just think of where people's minds are. People are in this kind of fog where there's no delineation between one day or another. So if they're approached by a photographer who just says, look, I would love to document this moment for you for posterity, and you package it in a really nice way, then they're going to have their record of lockdown. Do you know what I mean? And there'll be a lot of people that will go for that. So I would say prepare as if your business is opening tomorrow. If it's a hands-on business, like we said, like makeup or where it requires physical contact, there isn't anything you can do until we're allowed to touch each other. Basically, that's obvious, isn't it? So there's no special remedy for that. However, when I look at the progression, we see, look, we're probably going to be able to go to restaurants soon. Soon after that, we'll, you know, things like people will be able to get haircut and stuff. And when I was looking at the charts, when I looked at the sun, when the sun breaks the Kala Sarpa Yoga on the 16th of July, I think pretty much, you know, most of that lockdown stuff will have dissipated. We might have a little kind of up and down where they're like over the next few months, like all the numbers have gone back up, but I can't see it lasting longer than the middle of July because we're starting to come out of it already. In terms of like those practicalities, look for loans, charities, any organization, government scheme that you can possibly join. Even if you don't feel you qualify, join it. What's to lose? What they're going to do? Take the money back off you? You know, with so many people, there's so much stuff that they're just going to have to write off. I mean, the UK government has borrowed billions upon billions. So I would say to people, definitely look at any kind of government scheme, charity organization, anything where it's going to keep your coffers up. In the UK, we have a furlough scheme where the government pays 80% of people's wages. Mm-hmm. They've got something for the self-employed in June. So anyone that's self-employed, apply for everything if you've not done it already. And then just simplify, conserve and simplify. Think of all of the stuff that you can get rid of and that you can potentially sell. And then look at your pricing and think of services that you can provide that are useful for people post lockdown. People are going to be looking for more pampering. People might actually be prepared to spend a bit more on something that is more sensual and luxurious because they've been starved for so long. So think of the scents, aromas, everything. Just that would be a good thing. Apply for funding, consolidate, get rid of stuff that you don't need, simplicity, efficiency, prepare as if you're ready to go, and then just wait for that lockdown to break, and then boom. Marketing as well. Look at your marketing too.
I was thinking about actually a lot of, because I studied a lot of relationship coaching because of all my, you know, my charts. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I need to understand relationships. I know a lot of relationship coaches, and I know that this lockdown has created a lot of trauma as well in relationships because people are just, they can't avoid each other. What would you say people need to do, because so much is going on, triggering everybody? What are the stars? How can the stars help people in their charts maybe understand maybe relationship dynamics, or maybe how the transits are affecting the couple or the household? Is this something that you could, I mean, I loved my relationship chart. It's very insightful. I mean, also for my partner, like also about his hobbies and, you know, how we're so super different, but how we're still super attracted to each other. I mean, would you be able to see, for instance, in a relationship chart that people will get divorced, like that there's nothing to be done about it because these horrible transits are going on, they're not doing their shadow work? Or would you say, no, actually Vedic astrology is not that predictive, it's giving you more the trends that you can navigate, so that you get the higher vibrational outcome rather than the lower vibrational outcome?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on each person's chart. So like, for example, so wherever Capricorn, the sign of Capricorn falls in anyone's chart, so that it could be, they could be an Aquarian, they could be Aries, they could be, you know, whatever sign, I'm calling it the hot box.
What's that?
It's the hot box. It's almost like a tumble dryer. Because if you think there's so much planetary energy going on in the sign of Capricorn, everyone on planet Earth is having some part of their life triggered. So first of all, one has to embrace the triggering and just go, it's not personal, and it's happening to
it's
everyone.
not personal.
It's not personal. It's not personal, because it's happening to everyone. I mean, I've been triggered in the sense of, I mean, in the sense of, in the positive, in the sense of, because the seventh house is also to do with not only personal relationships, but the outside world. So I've got, because I'm Cancerian, like you, we've all got this happening in our seventh house. So it means our relationships get triggered, but it also means business gets triggered as well. So for me, I've launched, of course, my YouTube channel, etc. That's all outside world. So I decided to pull, you know, go with the positive. When it comes to relationships potentially ending, people also need to understand it's okay if a relationship ends right now. Because not in the case for you, Angelique, because if anything, it's like it will galvanize. Those relationships that are supposed to be together, they will pull together and get stronger. Saturn will, because the barriers work both ways. On one level, Saturn puts up barriers, but he also creates bonds. So Saturn can make things last. So Saturn can actually be a blessing for relationships, because he can bond things together. And some bonds are absolutely wonderful. Again, like we were talking like with Ellen, like Ellen's bond to her daughter. That's an amazing bond. No one would ever want to break that. And then likewise with relationships, although they might be tested, you have to look at the bond. But what will also happen is Saturn is also the planet of truth. So a lot of people are having to face the truth about their relationships. And if that relation is not strong, Saturn will separate that relationship. But you know what? It's probably for the best. And it was just in the washing machine. You know, it's just now it's hung out and it's on the washing line. And, you know, you can see that beautiful Angora you know, jumper that seems so nice and beautiful has shrunk and shriveled, and it's like the size of a glove. You know, there are a lot of people that are facing that. There are a lot of people, unfortunately, that are having to deal with, you know, domestic issues. And although that is very, very hard to deal with in lockdown, it's another truth. There are going to be a lot of people that are just like, you know what, I need to leave this relationship. And then there's going to be a lot of people as well who are going to be like, you know what, this isn't so bad. Actually, I really appreciate having my partner, or, you know, what have you. So it can go either way. One has to look at the chart, but people will either be brought, at the same time, we have, because of Jupiter is expansion, Saturn is contraction, but both of them make a point, when they're together, make a point of manifestation. It's a royal yoga. So it could go either way. A lot of people will meet their soulmates through this transit. over the next 2 years. A lot of people will meet soulmates, and a lot of people will let go of relationships and scenarios that no longer serve them, because
I had a
that
soulmate
Pluto.
transit. I had the soulmate transit together with my partner.
Yeah.
Just yes, we met in December, and this was really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I look at both your charts and like your Mahadashas, it's remarkable, because you are both in the transits of your relationship planets. In a sense, there's a technique which is called Gemini, where you look at the planet that holds the lowest degree. So for you, Angelique, Mars. So that, of course, that's the, you know, the alpha male being attracted to those masculine qualities, logic, you know, sensible, clear-headed. But for your partner, it's Mercury, which is the planet of friendship, communication, intelligence, and business. So is it any, you know, it makes sense that he should be attracted to a dynamic businesswoman. Do you see? So you're both going through the main period of those planets, but on the sub period, you're both going through the period of the sun as well. So which is about establishing the kingdom, you know, the work, what it is that you plan to do. And it's just remarkable. It's just remarkable. I think Ellen's going through a sun period as well. So it's all energy. It's all linked.
So I think, you know, those people who are watching this, you know, the type of chart readings that Hogarth is offering, you can look at your individual chart, you can look at your relationship chart. There is a chart that I gifted Ellen, which was the destiny chart, because of course I wanted to know her destiny, right? Because this is my business partner and we have big plans.
Yeah.
And it was so reassuring and so beautiful. Definitely, Hoagie can also look at your businesses. He can look at depth into, I think, your karma in terms of your the dharma of why do you have certain talents. And
Absolutely.
then and because we requested him, we said a lot of our clients or our community are self-employed, because they're all entrepreneurs. Maybe think of something business-like that is catered to this specific area that we live in.
Definitely. Like the life path and business consultation would be the one which is like the most comprehensive, because you get all of that information like that you yourself and Ellen got, but then it's also in conjunct with the business as well. So that's, of course, making sure, double checking that a person is in the right business, because some people may realize, oh my gosh, maybe this business is not quite right for me. Or they might want to augment and change their business so it's a much closer match to the future, because we're going into that age of Aquarius and it's all about online. And it's the sign of Aquarius is about being your true individual self and then helping the collective. So it's the two energies. So it's not just being like
too individualistic. It's
exactly.
It's those two opposites.
Absolutely. So it's about fully embracing your individualism. Like you can see me with my little wings and my little things that I do, but using that to help the collective, and then that balances the energy. So if someone is very, very skilled and they're very, very good at beauty or cutting hair or whatever it is, their hands-on thing, it doesn't mean they have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but they need to make sure that their business is in absolute alignment with their life path, because that's what the fifth dimensional energy is all about. If there is resentment, if a person doesn't feel like they want to do it, or if it's too hard, then they probably need to look at that. But by looking at the chart, then we can really find those specific things. Some people like you and Ellen are just on their life path and it's just a confirmation. Some people may actually need to change their life path, but deep down they'll know, because once we do the consultation, it will just become obvious what it is that they need to do. I understand we'll probably want to be wrapping up soon, but I've got some tips. Of how to stay in that fifth dimension. The two of you, of course, know this already, but these are just my personal ones. So first of all, obviously, meditation. Yes, we all know about that. but this is specific. Meditation in sunshine. Yeah, because
Oh,
because what's happening is, remember, light is energy, but light also holds information. So because we're going through this higher energy portion of the galaxy, the new light is coming in, the new downloads are coming in. So when you sit and meditate, could be sunbathing or whatever, and you are in the sun, maybe you just have your eyes closed, the downloads are coming, yeah? But this energy is very, very high. So what I also recommend is earthing. And what I mean by that, at the same time, like you're in a park or somewhere, but you lay flat on the ground and you make sure that at least your feet and your arms and hands can touch the soil, the grass, whatever it is. And what that will do is that will earth you, because the 5-dimensional energy is very high. I don't know if it's the same for you, but a lot of people have been having sleepless nights. I've been like a fish, over the last few weeks. Excuse me while I just get some water. 1 minute.
the poor Hogarth is drinking so much. I'm just gonna, for the people who don't know us, join the community that we're building, the appreciation game community. We're going to post the website of Hogarth there, and also the recording. And we're going to actually organize more stuff. And I was actually, Ellen, I don't know whether you agree with me. I think we should have, like, whenever Hogarth sees some planetary shift, he needs to just tell us that he needs to talk to us, because we need to be prepared, right? It's like, like we have to, maybe we need, like, not an interview, but maybe just need like a astrological update with Hogarth thing to our community, and then we bombard you with questions. Yeah.
Thanks, Ellen, for sharing the link there. I'm just topping myself up with a bit of coconut water. So I'll finish off. So yes, so do both, because if you only do the meditation in the sunlight, remember, you're going to get the uploads and your energy is going to go up, but you are not going to be able to sleep at night. I guarantee you. Because the energy is, if you can imagine, the energy is so high. But when you do the meditation, or you sit in the sun, or you just clear your mind, and then you earth, what happens is the energy of Gaia, that higher vibration comes up to meet, and then you can fully integrate it, and you'll feel more balanced. So that will help with sleep. So don't forget the earthing. Also as well, I've put here, help nature and appreciate its beauty, and don't jump on planes immediately. So what you've got to remember is everything is all connected. We see at the moment how much fun and basically jubilation nature is having. I've seen already in my local park that some of the birds have already got their first fledgling chicks out already. If this continues, we could have some of the birds have 2 or 3 broods of chicks. So nature is just restocking herself as much as possible. So just help that function. What it will do is, when you're helping nature and appreciating nature and watching it grow and observing the abundance is also growing inside of you simultaneously. So water plants, feed the birds if you can, or create little bird nests, help nature increase, and you will be increasing that vibration inside of yourself as well. And it's the purest way to get there, because it's completely, it's Gaia is also waking up. I would say also as well, go electric or renewable wherever you can. So if you can do little things, like even if it's just the case of changing your light bulbs to LED ones, something simple like that, or something which is also be good at composting. If you could have a little composting anywhere where you can let, help nature out, help nature increase, because what we want is, because we are also in the middle of a climate crisis, this is the perfect time to reset And by our behaviors, we will change the behaviors of government. So it's a great time. And then let's see, I've got a few more. If you can, you guys probably do this anyway, because you guys are very good with this in Holland, but shop locally. You know, all those little artisan people that produce those nice foods. I'm sure you've got tons of them in Holland, although I've never been. Yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
So all that stuff, obviously I'm not saying don't ever go to the supermarket, but when you can, even if it's just 10 or 20%, just buy 1 or 2 things from those local people, because what will happen is, A, they produce better quality, but then that changes the supply chains. Because if a local producer is having to buy more stuff, or having to buy more organic chicken, or having to do that and the other, that changes the nature of the supply chains, because then producers are going to have to produce higher quality to feed that demand. Now, I'm not saying you have to go out and buy, you know, beluga caviar and, you know, the most expensive, you know, Dutch cheese, you know, kind of going. But just if everyone buys a little bit, it stimulates that business. And then even the supermarkets will try and copy that. And that will improve their supply chains as well. I mean, you guys, you know, I'm sure things are okay in Holland, but you get what I mean, these little things. And one of the things as well, I would say, is particularly for the ladies as well, go for sustainable fashion, where you go to swap shops. We started to have these things called swap shops. Maybe you've got them in Holland as well. But just bear in mind, I don't want to guilt trip everyone, but fashion is the second biggest contributor to climate change. There are amazing clothes out there that are yet to be worn, that is just in someone's cupboard, waiting, screaming for your body to inhabit it. So I would say swap shops, where you can swap stuff, maybe buy stuff, but not buy so much, and certainly not buy to throw away. So go higher quality, maybe be a bit more fabulous and a bit more daring, you know, wear something very floral or bright, or something that's really well made. Do you know what I mean? That keeps for a long time, and that doesn't need to be thrown in the bin. And then the last thing, of course, the last thing would be have some kind of monetized online presence. Even if it's just eBay, yeah. Even if it's just eBay, because we're going into the age of Aquarius. Everything, the technology is just going to be zooming. We obviously have to be careful how we interact with that technology, but it's happening, it's going to happen. We're going to have to go even more online than we did before because of the lockdown. So always have some kind of side hustle where someone somewhere can buy something from you online. And then lastly, I would say have a consultation. Thanks so much for Ellen for posting up my website, The Archetypal Blueprint. There's lots of different kind of things on there. People can send me an email at info@thearchetypalblueprint.com, or just go to the website. It's all there. My Facebook pages, can link through to social media and all that stuff. And yeah, and it'd be a pleasure to just to help people. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hogarth. Yeah, I'm having another reading with you for my daughter this week. Excited about. So so much good stuff on this site to choose from. I'm like, I already have a couple that I want to do.
Brilliant. Just let me know when you're ready, and when you've done the transaction or whatever, and then I'll get into it. And for your daughter, it will be a more written one, because of course she's so young anyway. She's so young. But I will look at those key things, you know, the moon placements, the ascendants, and I'll look house by house and just give little tips. But the fact that you're engaged and you're aware, I mean, she's so lucky to have you as a mum. So, you know, good for the two of you with that karmic bond. It's brilliant.
And more parents might be interested in seeing how to navigate through the
Absolutely.
of life when you're responsible for them. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
You gave us so much information today. My mind is blown, and I think mine here is
Yes.
blown too.
I did not expect the timeline thing. I did not expect the, what is it, the holographic, what is it, thing that you're talking
I
about.
can't remember what I said now.
Something about the fifth dimension and
Yeah.
us creating this holographic, I don't know, vortex or something, by knowing that we're going to start our business tomorrow, just projecting that holographic energy field. I think that you're just basically talking about just calling in or becoming a vibrational match, tuning into the most fortuitous, like what we call best case scenario timeline.
Absolutely.
But also facing our shadows. Just want to recap, facing our shadow. We're going through this together. None of us can, forget about this man or woman in the dungeon and say, fuck that, I don't want to look at it. I'm just going to project it onto the governments, my husband, my mother, my mother-in-law, whatever it is us. That's the beautiful message. And, there's no fixation about where this is going to go. If we're going to be programmed into thinking that we're going to be powerless and that people are going to take our power away, that's just another program. You don't need to buy into it.
Yeah.
And you can just basically just always choose the highest vibrational outcome, which is what we do. Ellen and I, every day at 6 a.m. UK time, 7 a.m. CET time, we do this meditation for an hour where we're just creating that holographic vortex to tune into the best case scenario. And I'm so sure that Ellen and I are already living there, because we just, over the last few days, it's our astrology is confirming it, but also what we're downloading and all the collaborations that we're creating. We're just like going from strength to strength. Like I can't keep up like how busy we're going to be and how many products we're going to be creating with amazing experts. So
you're absolutely there. Absolutely there. It's like, the fact that we're even having this conversation, it validates it. Absolutely there. And I do a lot of astral travel between the different dimensions and stuff. So you guys are there, and it's what you're doing is so good, because you're helping bring everyone else up. And for some people, yes, it will be challenging, but honestly, it's worth it. When you face that shadow and you're able to incorporate that shadow truly, and be able to accept that, bring it through with the light, the power you get out of the other side, it is worth it. Most people are too scared to go there, but for those that are brave enough, trust me, the reward is worth it. It really is.
absolutely, yeah.
Beautiful closing. It's so worth it. And I still have a visual of your shadow.
Oh yeah.
I think he looks like Aquaman.
A little bit. Not as buff.
Of course, everybody looks like Jason Momoa to me.
But yeah, not as buff, but it was intense. Oh, and I will tell you, this is what I had to say. What I had to say was, it just came to me instinctively. I said, I accept you, I love you, and I understand that you are part of me, and that I can't exist without you, and you can't exist without me. And together we're more powerful. And when you truly accept that shadow, it gets out of the way. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you will never face an obstacle in your life, but what it does mean is you will never get in your own way anymore.
Most of our work is about getting out of our own way. We know that. We do a lot of energy work, and people are so in their own way, and including myself, all of us, that's our journey. But we'd like to blame people. We'd like to say it's the circumstances. It's like other people that apparently have more power than us. It's actually our power that we've like reduced or rejected or pushed away or never owned. Yeah. Amazing. Like, I love it, Hogarth, that you're just like such a, I don't know, what is it? Extremely interesting person. So much fun. When actually, Hogarth, when we were in London and I was meeting up with my mastermind, Daniel, who's part of my mastermind, just dragged you around. Remember we would do all these fun constellations with archetypes. It was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Maybe we should
I use the archetypes as well.
Yeah. And we were actually, we were thinking about doing the archetypal constellation for people as a service. Maybe, yeah, so maybe we should experiment with that one time, maybe with a group of people. Yeah, so
absolutely.
I'll explain to you, Ellen, what that means. It's basically, I think Daniel had a group, he had a deck of cards, the Caroline Myss archetypal cards, and then we would do a reading. We would do a reading for a person, just picking cards, not knowing what they were. And then we would just channel like a constellation. We would channel the archetypes. And then we would we were so accurate. It was so scary because archetypal cards of Caroline Myss, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And but we were so accurate, and it was always relevant for ourselves as well. And it was so much fun. Gabriella was there, Hogarth was there, Daniel was there, I was there, and then another friend of mine, Sarah, was there. It was just like mind blowing. But yeah, that's how I met Hogarth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't doing Vedic astrology then. But I just really want to thank you. I'm so grateful for Daniel referring me to you, because my Western astrology was so bizarre about my relationship that I just thought, literally, I sent that chart to my relationship coach and he was worried. And I was worried. And it was like, oh my God, this relationship is doomed. And then when I went to you, it was also so accurate. I was like, if I have two options to believe the horrible relationship chart or the good one, I'm going to go for the good one, because that's, because why would I go for the bad one? And, you know, it's basically our focus, you know, it's really, where do we focus? So I think absolutely can get a lot just by having a session for you.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for trusting me and Ellen. I think, you know, a lot of you are extremely committed to creating an amazing outcome for your future. If you want to join us on the 7 a.m. CET meditations, if you cannot join them, I will actually try and record a meditation so that you can listen to it. There's a really high energy to these meditations. Maybe tomorrow I'll have to wake up and go into the sun. But definitely, we are helping you, we're empowering you. This is our guidance. Ellen and I really guided to help many, many more people by working, collaborating with amazing people like Hogarth. But definitely, if you want to know more about our activities, follow us on Conscious World Club on Facebook, or go to our little community, and we'll be launching many more stuff. Ellen and I get out of the way, and literally, you know, everything that you're talking about. So basically, if a download comes, Ellen and I just implement. We don't try and overanalyze it, because that really doesn't work for us. You know, the analytical mind, which tries to control.
It can only do so much. Yeah.
No, it cannot do that much.
The tool.
Yeah, it's just a tool. So Ellen and I really trust our downloads, and when something feels good, Ellen and I just implement it. And interviewing you felt good, and it gave us so much more. So,
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Good night, everybody. We'll be uploading the recording. I want to thank you for your time and your talent, Hogarth, and we'll be hearing more from you. Lots of love.
Yes, I look forward to it. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.